What's up, everybody? Welcome along to another episode of the TexAgs High School Football Show. I'm Ryan Brauninger, joined as always by my coworker and colleague, Mr. Jason Howell. All things DFW from Mr. Howell as we roll right along in the Texas high school football season. Another week in the books. We start to kind of paint the playoff picture a little more each week as some teams are getting ready to start airing up basketballs, and some teams are already looking at that bracket and wondering if they can make it to Jerry World. So, Jason, interesting week. I know in Houston there was some very eye-popping score lines for me, but I was out in the hill country. I made our first trip west of the year. Me and you are usually in the two big metroplexes of the state, but I went out to San Antonio and caught a game out there. But we always start with you in Dallas. What'd you see? What'd you like? What caught your eye?
Well, first I was at Naaman Forest, Rowlett, and Rowlett made it a bit more of a ball game than I expected, but Naaman Forest was able to pull it out. Marcus Dill did his thing on both sides of the ball. First time I saw him, offensive line, he definitely stood out as a tackle. He had a bit tougher matchup on Thursday night, and going up against SMU commit Michael Ivakan Okioti, and he was tested, but he also stood tall and had some nice moments and delivered. Looked like a top prospect should in that 23 class, especially when working on both sides of the ball. And Kingsley Bennett put up a few touchdowns, and Naaman Forest was able to pull away in the second half. And then on Friday night, I was out in Pilot Point for homecoming, and Ish Harris with 4 first half touchdowns, 3 on the ground,
Big
1
night.
through the air.
Yep.
Yeah, he also had like 8 tackles out there, playing a bit of a safety role, and patrolling the back end of that defense, and really he's really stepped things up and done a really good job over the last few weeks on offense and defense as Pilot Point looks to have found their stride right on time for the playoffs. So that's where I got to throw in Aidan Cox. He's a Pilot Point 2022 athlete, plays defensive end and receiver. He had 3 touchdowns of his own receiving and over 200 yards. So he had a big effort, and he's a guy that we're going to see sign somewhere FCS. I wouldn't be surprised if FBS started to show some interest there too, but big effort by both those guys.
It's always interesting to see how those kids that are kind of on the bubble, if their stock really increases after that early signing period, when a lot of the targets are off the board and people are having to rework kind of what their board looks like in colleges across the region. Mm-hmm. So I did want to ask you about a couple of DFW teams that have started to pop up on some of the state top 10s that we haven't spoken about. And I want to start with, what do you know about the Colleyville Heritage Panthers? Because that's a team that I'm really interested in because of Coach Martin that's up there who started the Manville program and had such a great run in South Houston.
Well, they've got an explosive offense, and like you said, Kirk Martin, he's always going to have a tough-minded team, and again, they're doing some damage. They're playing a tough district, so they're going to be battle tested come playoff time, and that's a school to watch. I don't know if they're a state title contender, but you could see them go a few rounds deep.
They're up to number 7.
Probably get them.
Yeah, they're up to number 7 in the state.
Yeah, and Coach Martin's going to have those guys ready to play come playoff time for sure.
And one more that has kind of slowly but steadily kind of creeped into the 5A Division I rankings is a school that has been kind of familiar with this territory but hasn't broken through, is Frisco Lone Star.
Yeah, well, and they had Garrett Rangel go down earlier in the year, and they've kind of done some things on the quarterback front, and but that offense hasn't slowed one bit. And Lone Star, Ashton Genty is one of my favorite players in the Metroplex. He's a underrated guy. He's played running back and receiver, and they always have a defense that's one of the stronger, more underrated and undervalued in the area. But Yeah, they're always strong. And shoot, that matchup with Denton Ryan is going to be pretty big to close out the season.
Well, and then lastly, 5A Division II. I don't know if you've looked at the top 10 currently, but as it stands, 4 of the 6 in the top 10 in 5A Division II are DFW teams. I'm going to leave the one that I want to talk to you about for last.
Okay.
Aledo, Ennis, Sock. I mean, when you talked about Sock having a really good team, I know you talked about it on TexAgs on the site quite a bit. They come in at number 6. Ennis is number 2. Aledo, obviously, number 1. But number 2, and you've hinted at this team a little bit. And they believe you hit a blurb about one of their guys being one of your under-the-radar guys last week in your Around Texas, around the SEC recruiting piece that's on TexAgs.com premium side. The Lucas Lovejoy Leopards, they continue to just absolutely dominate people, and now they have jumped Fort Bend Marshall into that number 2 spot. That crash course for Aledo and Lovejoy that's going to happen somewhere down the road in the playoffs, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's talk about a team that's got a wide open offense. I think I mentioned 3 receivers. I highlighted Kyle Parker last week, and then they got a 2024 Parker Livingston that's this big playmaker, and then Jackson Lavender just committed to SMU of 2023. But they also have Omari Murdoch, who transferred in from Allen. That's all of 6'6", 210 pounds, that splits out wide and is kind of a flex tight end type for him. But they've got weapons, and that defense, man, they've got some playmakers on that side of the ball too. Frisco, they come in with that ground attack, one of the best in the state, and Lovejoy shut them down and was able to put up points in a hurry. And I mean, in a battle of unbeatens last weekend.
And typically, Aledo rolls through that region until they'll win the region. Then the Lubbock area teams, Lubbock Cooper has given them some problems in the last couple of years. Aledo's been able to beat them, but they've been close games before they get to Jerry World. But man, I don't know enough about Aledo. The reputation precedes them, Titletown, Texas, all that stuff. But this Lovejoy team, man, they feel like maybe this is their year to break through. So that game, I'll be really interested to watch that.
And they really pushed had a pretty deep playoff run last year, and it seemed like it was a little bit ahead of schedule. Lovejoy's for real. Aledo they are what they have been. They grind you to death with that offensive front, and they have a powerful running game, and they have a stout defense. So, Lovejoy's nothing to sleep on.
Well, I had, like I said, my first trip out to the Hill Country, got to see Smithson Valley, an upset win by the Converse Judson Rockets. Just an incredible fourth quarter. The game was really slow. It was the worst special teams game I'd ever seen play at the high school level. I think there were 6 kickoffs out of bounds. There was a missed extra point. There was a blocked field goal. There was a punt snapped over the punter's head. There was 2 15-yard penalties on punts that extended drives. It was just a mess on special teams. But huge credit to Converse Judson. They'd overcome. I think they had some coaching issues during the week where I think a coach left. So the team really rallied around the remainder of the staff, and they pulled off a shock upset. Smithson Valley was undefeated, and they were at home, and they were moving up the state rankings, and Judson had really been on their heels for most of the year, and they were able to rally and win that game. And I'll tell you what, it's my first time seeing 2023 defensive lineman Johnny Bowens. That kid plays with a really high mower. He's really good. Very twitchy. I tell you who he reminds me of for an A&M comparison was a little bit of Tyree Johnson. He's built different, but they play kind of the same. Like very twitchy, explosive off the edge, will chase the football. They're going to be different players, but that was the first comp that came to mind when I watched him play. But he's a lot of fun. Maybe a Matabike. He's not that big. He's not as big as Justin was.
He's got that barrel chest, and what is he now? He's what, 255?
He looked a little, 240 probably. Yeah, but really impressed with that kid, and it was a huge win for Converse Judson. A&M commit Colton Thomason out there at Smithson Valley looked good for a 6'8" kid. 325 pounds. I mean, when he hit his target, you can imagine there was some bodies moving. And Um, that stadium, I talk about it all the time, but that Smithson Valley Ranger Stadium is beautiful. Just the setting, it's right in the middle of all the hills out there. They just completed like a $20 million mansion that's on the hill that's adjacent to the field, and you can see it. It lights up at night. Just a really, I mean, it takes a while to get out there. It was about 2 hours and 40 minutes for me from College Station, but a really pretty stadium and a really picturesque drive when you're getting out there close to it. But, you know, closer to home for me in Houston, there was some really interesting results. And the one that really caught my eye, and it justifiably, this team has moved up to number 5 in the state in 5A Division I. It's a team that I don't know that we've mentioned at all, Jason. The Katy Peyto Panthers. They went.
Yeah, they are rolling.
And beat Fort Bend Hightower, who at the time Fort Bend Hightower was number 9 in the state, and I believe Peyto was number 8. They beat Hightower 55-7. And it's a new school amongst that group of Katy ISD, all that talent that's kind of spread out down there on the west side of Houston. And they do it kind of a little bit of everything. And they've got a really talented junior class, 2023 safety C.J. Johnson, the younger cousin of A&M running back L.J. Johnson. He's a key piece to the puzzle. They've got a lot of really good, solid players. And that scoreline, I mean, I think that woke up a lot of people in the state and a lot of people in Region 3 in terms of you look at the teams ahead of them, Denton Ryan, College Station, Highland Park, or Amarillo, Tascosa. Those are all Region 1 or Region 2 teams. So you're looking at 5A Division I Region 3. Katy Peyto has laid claim to being the best team in the region. I'm sure like Manville will have a say about that. Fort Bend Ridge Point may have a say. I think Ridge Point may be 6A now. They all run together. But it's just an incredible job of coaching and those kids in a new school and just kind of slowly but steadily building a culture and building a team that is now one of the best in the state. So I'm hoping that I can get down and see them in person because their wins have been super impressive, and they actually play Manville this week. So be interesting to see the outcome of that game.
Yeah, that'll be a big one. Up here, I know Geyer rebounding for a big win over McKinney Boyd. McKinney Boyd, they've been. I think they had one loss coming into the game, and we're trying to push, as a contender in that district. But Geyer kind of exposed them a bit. Just too much talent. And Jackson Arnold continues to impress as one of the top quarterbacks in the state.
He's going to shoot way up our rankings, huh?
Yeah, and he's piling up the offers. He looks like the guy there in the state of Texas as far as the top quarterbacks. He's definitely putting it all together. And that's one of your baseball guys. You got to love that, Brian.
I didn't know Jackson Arnold was a baseball kid.
Yeah. He's I do love in the spring, man. He's over on the baseball field. He does this thing over there. And
I do like my quarterbacks to be baseball guys. I am biased in that sense.
Well, and you see it, he plays, it's not, I'm not going to compare him to Connor, but he does make, those off-platform throws, those off-balance kind of throws, and he's got that quick release and just a heady ball player. And his story after coming in the state championship game when Eli went down a few years ago as a freshman, and just Westlake, it was not pretty. And to see him rebound and do the things that he's been doing this fall, it's been fun to watch. And then I gotta give the other one that really caught me was Ennis over Forney. Forney's been kind of coming on strong lately, especially in district play. And Ennis is, man, that offense is explosive as it's going to get in 5A. And they put it on Forney in a battle there, 31-7. And that Grayson Harris, freshman receiver. I want to say he's over 1,000 yards now as a freshman. One of the leading receivers in the state, and just a fun video to watch. If you get some time, I highlighted him a couple weeks ago as a new name to watch. And if you get a chance to go browse some huddle, Grayson Harris is one you want to check out.
What's your plans for this week?
I will be at Longview, McKinney North. Get to see a little Jalen Hale in Longview as they travel up to McKinney ISD. And then I'll be at the Battle of the Axe just down the road from me in Flower Mound Marcus as they take on Louisville, one of the big rivalries up here. Louisville is a team that I've really been wanting to see. They've got it rolling over here. Jaden Hardy is one of the top DBs, regardless of class. Has a Texas A&M offer, safety, and is one of the captains, of the team. So that tells you what kind of
reminds me a little bit of
he commands.
Young Jamal Adams coming out of the DFW. Plays the game, I think, pretty similar to Jamal Adams. I mean, that's a high praise, but I watched his tape and going, this kid is really good.
Yeah, he's the real deal. And Marcus has some dudes: Cole Welliver, Ashton Cozart, Dallas. Dallas Dudley. They've got some guys out there as well. It should be a fun little matchup, and with some big playoff implications. So I'm looking forward. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big ones in Houston. Most notably, Atascocita at North Shore on Friday night. That's going to be a wild one. Both teams with one loss. But on Thursday night, I'll be headed to the Berry Center, my personal favorite place to watch a high school football game in Greater Houston. Cy Ranch against Cy Park for a district championship for all intents and purposes. Obviously, key A&M target Harold Perkins on the field. Cy Ranch, with a lot of talent. They got a Baylor commit. They got a Rice commit. Ashton Porter in 23. Christian Braithwaite in 23. Jared Sample. Cy Park led by Perkins, but they've gotten some really strong performances out of guys like Jara Anderson, 23 defensive tackles. He's got a K-State offer. Running back Nick Livingston, Owen Pee-wee, Cameron King. They got a really talented bunch, and they made history last year by making the playoffs, and only going to potentially build on that this year for their school's first district title if they can come up with a win on Thursday against Cy Ranch. And then Friday night, I'm headed back down to Galveston County, going to drive right through downtown Houston, hit I-45 South, which is usually a parking lot. It's usually a parking lot no matter what time you get there. But headed down to see Coach Schnelson and the Dickinson Gators take on Clear Springs in a battle of three Texas A&M commits. Dickinson, obviously, with Donovan Green and P.J. Williams. Clear Springs boasting A&M wide receiver commit Noah Thomas, who has been just sensational this year. 13 touchdowns in 6 games for Noah. Returned to kick 75 yards for a touchdown last week. There should be a lot of points involved in this one. Both teams go fast. Both teams want to throw it. So I'll have to make sure that my cell phone battery is fully charged before we get going on that one. But San Vitanza Stadium down there in Dickinson, they got a great little restaurant right there on the bayou, like right there on the water, that I'll go down there early, get some fried alligator, sit and have a good time there, and then head on over and watch that game. But, week 10, Jason, one more week in the regular season, then it's playoff time. And then our options for games go down pretty significantly. I can already say this. For me, in round 1, I will be going to see Fort Bend Marshall because I've purposefully avoided seeing their district schedule because most of the games are over at halftime. So I'm already making plans to be down there in week 1. But in my agenda, on my horizon, is that College Station Denton Ryan potential second-round matchup that I think we're all hoping for. Again, just kind of laying the land as we get ready for the playoffs, right?
Absolutely. And you talk about the schedule kind of dwindling down, but for me, that means like the matchups are so strong and I get the chance to go to games 3 nights a week. You got your Thursday, Friday, Saturday matchups. It's at least in the first few rounds. So it's going to be fun. Won't
be long. We'll be heading to Jerry World, Jason.
Oh man. Lots of hot dogs and hamburgers. And,
and getting yelled at by the media guy, the media overseer up there. He's
awesome.
He's great. All right, that's Jason Howell. I'm Ryan Brauninger. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be right back here next week on the TexAgs High School Football Show.